Yan Ravinaka, Bulvinaka, Namaste, Noya Maori, and very warm greetings to you all this wonderful morning. Happy World Consumer Rights Day. I'm delighted to join you this morning and thank the Consumer Council CEO and her team for inviting me to officiate at today's celebrations. As consumers, we have so much influence to change the world by being careful in what we buy, and for that reason today we celebrate our rights. We are all consumers, and as the largest economic group, we have so much influence on almost every dynamic, whether it is a public or private economic decision. It is therefore no surprise that 2/3 of all spending in the economy is by consumers. So you can see how much control consumers have in any country and how much influence they weave. And that is why we are present here today, to embark on a journey towards protecting and empowering consumers of today and of the future. World Consumer Rights Day was, I didn't know this, was inspired by one of my favorite United States presidents, John F. Kennedy, who sent a special message to the US Congress on the 15th of March 1962, in which he formally addressed the issue of consumer rights. He was the first world leader to do so, and as a result, the international consumer movement was formed, and the first Consumer Rights Day, World Consumer Rights Day, was celebrated in 1983, and now uses this day to annually mobilize action on important issues and campaigns. Fiji, of course, has always been an advocate or staunch supporter for consumer rights and consumer protection, and since 1976, Fiji also formed an independent consumer protection and advocacy organization, the Consumer Council of Fiji. When I first met the CEO, I told her, when we were around for too long, you actually remember a lot of history. The first office for the Consumer Council was a small little office just at the back of, I think it was Ratsukuna House, or Ratsukuna House, just at the corner there. Very small office. I used to go in there for various things in my various roles. And today it's quite a larger office and has become quite sophisticated in what it's doing, which is a pleasure to see. At this juncture, I would also like to just thank the Consumer Council of Fiji for spearheading this national celebration over the 4 decades and continuing to be a fearless advocate for consumer rights. In a rapidly changing marketplace, this year's World Consumer Rights Day is sparking constructive conversation, making the case for solutions that put consumer rights at the core of meaningful and long-lasting change. And this year's theme could not be more relevant and timely, as it places focus on something which impacts us all. The world leaders at COP27 in Egypt focused on securing a just transition in the energy sector. In support of this, World Consumer Rights Day 2023 theme was announced by Consumers International as empowering consumers through clean energy transitions. Amidst the greatest cost of living crisis in a generation, as alluded to by the CEO, the need to respond to these issues is critical, particularly the need to transition quickly. The Fiji government recognizes the need to accelerate the efforts through promoting clean energy for sustainable livelihoods. Just for your information, we are currently holding negotiations through what is called the Indo-Pacific Economic Partnership Framework, where an important area for discussion is clean energy, wherein Fiji is an advocate for small island developing states in terms of the energy transition. Furthermore, we have encouraged businesses, particularly MSMEs, to relook at their business models and incorporate greener practices. We have been also seeing businesses becoming more eco-conscious and adopting a more friendlier climate practices. You will have heard the Minister for Tourism also talk about initiatives in ecotourism, which I think are quite important. A simple example is that some SMEs are adopting solar panels instead of diesel generators as a source of power supply. In thinking about the speech today, one of the things I was reflecting on is being a practical person myself is how do we make this practical in Fiji. And so there is an economic summit happening on the 20th and the 21st of April this year. And I think more than anything, it will be a great opportunity to really seriously look at this energy transition that we talk about, that it not only is a theoretical discussion, it becomes a very practical discussion going forward. Some of the things that I was thinking about coming here, this was electrical buses. I came up with one of the most influential bus companies in Fiji, the owner, and it reminded me that maybe I should be talking to him about electrical buses in the future. But these are the practical questions that we need to answer. Practical electric powered government vehicles, taxis and the like. And so that is therefore, I think, the largest challenge, and I think the CEO quite rightly alluded to it in terms of policy makers making the bold decisions. And also making it affordable to all. Increasing access to affordable and reliable, sustainable, cleaner energy will also play a major part in averting catastrophic climate change, with consumption shifts now recognized and estimated to reduce future greenhouse gases by up to 40 to 70% in the future. The largest contributor to global greenhouse emissions is energy use and production. With around 2/3 of the world's electricity still coming from burning fossil fuels, reaching these climate goals by 2050 will require at least 80% of electricity to be shifted to low carbon sources, according to the International Energy Agency. And I guess therein lays the challenge. I think you will find from government a greater shift towards renewable energy. I see from the program that the CEO of Energy Fiji, Mr. Haspuk Patel, is joining. Hopefully he comes. Because certainly from where the government sits, there is a genuine need to really look at green, clean, and an equitable energy future. Not only that, and I thought I'd just mention this as part of government's initiatives, particularly when it comes to the economic summit, we'll be seriously looking at inflation mitigation measures. How can we are an import-dependent country, and how can we seriously address those issues? One is renewable energy. Hopefully it can bring the cost of electricity down, and there's transfer onto cost of production in Fiji, and then that way we address the issue of clean energy, but we also address a major issue for consumers, which is affordability. One of the things I also hope to, I actually was talking to with the Honorable Biman Prasad this morning, for Fiji to start looking at a sovereign wealth fund and be quite serious about it. What do I mean by sovereign wealth fund? Some of the countries that have sovereign wealth, a sovereign wealth fund is where you take proceeds maybe from natural resources and you put it into a sinking fund, and this sinking fund starts building over time. And it's in some countries where they've successfully done it, you get to a point where it can be used to manage dislocations in the economy. So when the next COVID hits, a good question is, what does Fiji do about it? Through a sovereign wealth fund, you can actually mitigate. So instead of lending more money, you look at the sovereign wealth fund to actually mitigate your. So hopefully that discussion will come through as well. It's good for consumers. I know all of us were impacted quite badly during COVID, and unfortunately we had to resort to band-aid measures just to try and mitigate inflation. Fiji needs to look at a more structural economy, a more structured economy, and put in place measures so that in future these matters can be addressed. Apart from that, government is also seriously looking at import replacement as a strategy for instead of just pure export. What that means is hopefully we can find more affordable fruits, more affordable things that we can consume in Fiji, and that brings the cost of living down. I know that apples are normally a popular thing with every family. There's these new guavas that are out there that are just as nutritious and nice. And so, focusing more on that type of consumption will bring things down. There's discussions now about tapioca flour. There are some investors in the country already starting to seriously look at tapioca flour production, mostly for export. Hopefully we can blend with local flour, and that again may or may not bring the cost of flour down. But again, these are measures that government will be seriously looking at to try and ensure that not only we manage the immediate dislocations that will continue to happen given our posture as a small island in the middle of the Pacific, which is subject to the vagaries of economic dislocation. But going forward, we can actually put in place some longer-term measures so that some of these issues no longer are a thing that we are concerned with, or certainly as a country we can mitigate against them. And just to let you know, the Kiribati government has a sovereign wealth fund of about 500 million Australian. Food for thought. Our vision for a clean, green and equitable energy future is a serious one, as you probably noted from what I've shared. The rapid transition to renewable energy will be good for the people of Fiji and the planet. Therefore, I can assure you all that government is committed to accelerating the transition to green energy. Over the next few years, we will focus on amplifying the current policies relating to clean energy, making the structural changes required to make this happen, and work hand in hand with all stakeholders, including those of you in this room, to ensure that we map out a greener and bluer path for Fiji. With those few words, I would like to thank the Consumer Council once again for organizing this very important event. I'm keen, I'll circle back to the CEO in terms of the panelist discussions. Hopefully some of that input can find its way towards the Economic Summit. But that being said, I'm honored to be here today to officiate this function. Wish the panelists well in terms of the discourse here today. Keen to hear back from them, as I said, as we like to think that we're a government that listens very well. And I look forward to hearing from the deliberations and best wishes to the panelists today. Terima kasih.